This is Ranger Luke Foster, Beartooth Absaroka Wilderness Station 7, Incident Log, August 14, 2024, 1847 hours. I'm documenting what's happening at the Glacier Hollow outpost because I need someone to understand what we found up here, what found us. I've been a backcountry ranger for 11 years. You learn to read weather, read terrain, read people who shouldn't be on a glacier at 11,000 feet without proper gear. This morning, I was supposed to be doing routine trail maintenance on the Beartooth Loop. Easy day, beautiful day. Temperature hit 68 degrees at altitude, warmest August 14th on record. The Weather Service said, climate change doing its thing. Got the distress call at 0923 hours. Climbing party for people stuck on the Hollow Glacier's northern face. Guide fell through a crevasse, group panicked, abandoned proper protocols. Classic tourist mistake. I radioed Station Commander Reese Whitmore, got authorization for solo extraction. Closest backup was 6 hours out. Grabbed my technical gear, loaded the ATV with medical supplies, and headed up the access trail. The Hollow Glacier sits in a cirque basin, tucked between Mount Weathertop and Cathedral Peak. It's a small glacier, maybe 400 yards across, remnant of the last ice age. Been shrinking every year I've monitored it. Used to extend all the way down to the treeline. Now it barely reaches the scree field. I reached the glacier access point at 1,134 hours. The climbers were visible on the north face. 3 people huddled together, one lying flat on the ice. I could hear them shouting from 200 yards away. Amateurs, breaking the first rule of alpine emergencies. Conserve energy, conserve heat. Made voice contact at 1,147 hours. The group, Bridget Carlson, 41, from Bozeman, the one who'd hired the guide. Her husband, Tomas Carlson, 44. Their friend, Yuki Tanaka, 37, from Seattle. The guide, Mikhail Sokolov, 52, was the one in the crevasse. 30-foot fall onto a ice ledge, compound fracture of the left tibia visible even from my position. He was conscious, screaming in Russian and English. The extraction took 2 hours. Technical rope work, ice anchors, the whole procedure. I've done it 100 times. What I hadn't done before was notice the smell. When I reached Mikhail's position, suspended on my rope, I smelled it. Sweet, organic, like overripe fruit mixed with copper. The crevasse walls were weeping, meltwater running down in sheets. But the water was cloudy, milky, wrong color for glacial runoff. How long have you been down here? I asked Mikhail as I secured the rescue harness around his chest. 40 minutes. Hour maybe. Can't feel my leg. His accent was thick Ukrainian, I think. He'd been guiding in Montana for 5 years, according to his certification tags. The ice. It's wrong. The color. I looked at the crevasse walls. He was right. The ice was discolored, gray-green marbling running through it in veins. Fresh ice is blue. Old ice is white. This was neither. Just melt patterns. I told him, lying. I'd never seen melt patterns like that. We got him to the surface at 1,342 hours. Set his leg with an inflatable splint, administered morphine, got him stabilized. The group was hypothermic mild, stage 1, but enough to affect judgment. Bridget kept crying, apologizing. Tomas was silent, staring at the glacier like he was trying to memorize it. Yuki was functional, helped me set up the emergency shelter while I called for medical evac. That's when Reese told me the news. Weather system moving in faster than predicted. Thunderstorms, possible hail, winds up to 60 miles per hour. No helicopter extraction until morning at earliest. Can you get them down to Station 7? Reese asked through the radio static. I looked at Mikhail's leg, at the exhausted climbers, at the sky already darkening to the west. Station 7 was 5 miles down trail. Mikhail couldn't walk. The ATV could carry 2 at a time. It would take 3 trips and we'd be racing the storm. Negative, I said. We're going to the Hollow Station. Overnight shelter. Better than exposure. The Hollow Station is a stone cabin built in 1962. Sits about 600 yards from the glacier's southern terminus. Used to be a research station when the glacier was bigger, when scientists studied ice core samples. Now it's just emergency shelter bunks with stove, emergency supplies. I'd restocked it in June. For walls, a roof, and a working radio. Everything we needed. We reached the station at 1,653 hours. The storm hit at 1,701 hours. The cabin's interior. 1 main room, 20 by 30 feet. Stone walls 3 feet thick. 6 bunks along the east wall. With stove in the center. I got it lit within 10 minutes. Cabin warming up nicely. Propane lamps on the walls. Food stores in the locked cupboard. Dehydrated meals, canned goods, enough for a week if rationed. Medical supplies in the footlocker. Radio equipment on the desk by the north window. I got everyone settled. Mikhail on a bottom bunk, leg elevated, vital stable. Bridget and Tomas took the bunks near the stove. Yuki helped me inventory supplies. Turned out she was a registered nurse, worked ER at Harborview. Thank God for small favors. How's the leg looking? I asked her after she examined Mikhail. Stable. Fractures clean, bones aligned. If we can get him to a hospital in 12 hours, he'll be fine. Infection is the big risk. She peeled off the gloves, threw them in the trash. He's running a low fever, 99.8. Probably just stress response. The radio crackled. Reese's voice. Luke, medical evac scheduled for 0700 hours tomorrow. Weather permitting. How's the group? Stable. 1 fever, everyone else good. We'll hunker down and wait it out. Copy that. I'm sending Calvin up with the Polaris at first light, extra supplies. You need anything? Negative. We're good here. Famous last words. At 1834 hours, I heard the first sound. Outside, over the storm wind. A wet thudding. Rhythmic. Like something heavy dragging across rocks. I went to the north window, looked out through the rain-streaked glass. The glacier was barely visible through the storm, gray mass in the fading light. The meltwater stream that fed down from the terminus was running high, foamy white in the half-light. And there was something in the stream. Too dark to make out details. Just a dark shape, maybe 6 feet long, moving downstream in jerky motions. Probably a log, I thought. Deadfall washed down from the tree line. Except we were above the tree line. No trees for half a mile. What do you see? Yuki was standing behind me, holding a mug of instant coffee. Nothing. Thought I saw something in the runoff stream. Just logs. There are no trees up here. I know. We stood there watching. The shape disappeared downstream around the rocky outcrop. The cabin suddenly felt very small. At 1912 hours, Mikhail started screaming. This is Luke Foster, Station 7, continuing incident log, August 14th, 1915 hours. Mikhail Sokolov, the guide with the broken leg, he's in bad shape. Real bad. I ran to his bunk. He was convulsing, back arched, hands clawing at his throat. Yuki was already there, trying to hold him down. His skin was gray, not pale gray, like concrete. Help me, Yuki shouted. He's seizing. Bridget and Tomas scrambled up, helped pin his shoulders. The morphine should have kept him sedated, but he was thrashing like he'd been hit with a defibrillator. His eyes were open, pupils blown wide, but he wasn't seeing us. He was looking at something else. Mikhail. I grabbed his face, forced eye contact. Mikhail, stay with me. What's wrong? His mouth opened. The smell that came out, Christ. That same sweet copper smell from the crevasse, but concentrated, like meat left in the sun. He tried to speak, managed one word in Russian, then English, growing. The seizure stopped as suddenly as it started. He went limp, breathing ragged, shallow. Yuki checked his pulse, 180 BPM, way too high. His skin was burning up. Fever spiking, Yuki said, pressing her hand to his forehead. 104, maybe 105. We need to cool him down now. We stripped him down, packed ice from the emergency cooler around his major arteries. His skin was changing. Those gray patterns weren't just discoloration. They were raised. Veins or something like veins, but wrong. Too geometric. Too regular. What is that? Bridget whispered. Infection, Yuki said, but her voice was uncertain. Some kind of bacterial infection, maybe from the ice water in the crevasse. Luke, we need antibiotics from the medical kit. I grabbed the footlocker, pulled out the antibiotic supply. Broad-spectrum amoxicillin, 500 milligrams. Yuki administered 2 pills, got him to swallow with water. He was conscious now, whimpering, one hand pressed to his broken leg. The ice, he muttered. Something in the ice. I felt it, when I was down there, in the water. You're delirious, Yuki said gently. It's the fever. You're going to be okay. But I saw her face. She didn't believe it. At 20:34 hours, we heard the second sound. This time, everyone heard it. Scratching, on the cabin's south wall. Slow, methodical, like fingernails on stone, but heavier, persistent. I grabbed my mag light, went to the door. Yuki tried to stop me. Don't go out there. But I needed to see. I'm the ranger. This is my station, my responsibility. Opened the door 6 inches, shone the light out. Nothing. Just rain, rocks, the dark mass of the glacier 600 yards upslope. The scratching had stopped. I closed the door, bolted it, double-checked the windows, all latched. The cabin was secure. Whatever was out there couldn't get in. At 2,156 hours, Mikhail's fever hit 106. Yuki was frantic. This isn't normal infection progression. It's too fast, too aggressive. Luke, we need that helicopter tonight, not tomorrow morning. I tried the radio. Nothing but static. The storm was interfering with transmission or... Station 7, this is Beartooth Central. Do you copy? Reese's voice, broken by static but clear enough. Reese, this is Luke. We have a medical emergency. Mikhail's fever is 106 and climbing, unknown infection, possibly from glacier water. We need immediate evac. Long pause. Then, Luke, no aircraft can fly in this weather. I've got the storm system on radar. It's stalled over your position. Earliest possible extraction is 0800 hours tomorrow. Can he last that long? I looked at Mikhail. His skin was more gray than flesh now, those geometric vein patterns spreading up his neck, across his chest. His eyes were open but unfocused. I don't know, I said honestly. Do what you can. Keep him hydrated. Keep the fever down. I'm sending Calvin up at first light with advanced medical supplies. Hold position. Reese out. The radio went silent. At 2,247 hours, we saw the first one through the window. Tomas saw it first. He'd been standing watch at the north window, couldn't sleep. He made a sound. Not quite a scream, more like a choked gasp, and pointed. I went to look. It was a mountain goat, or it had been. Hard to tell now. The animal was standing in the meltwater stream, maybe 50 yards from the cabin. It wasn't moving right. Jerky, spastic motions like a marionette with tangled strings. Its head was tilted at an angle that would have broken a living animal's neck. And it was covered in those gray patterns. the same geometric veining that covered Mikhail's skin. As we watched, it started walking toward the cabin. Not running, not charging. Walking. Methodical. Purposeful. "What the fuck?" Tomas whispered. The goat reached the cabin wall, pressed its head against the stone, and started scratching, the same sound we'd heard before. "It's dead," Bridget said from her bunk. "It has to be dead. The way it's moving." "It's not dead," Yuki interrupted. She was standing next to Mikhail's bunk, staring at him. "Look at his leg." We looked. The broken leg, the one I'd splinted, the one that should have been immobile, was moving. The foot was flexing, toes curling and uncurling. But Mikhail was unconscious. He couldn't be moving it voluntarily. "The infection," Yuki said slowly. "It's not killing him. It's controlling him." At 2,301 hours, Mikhail opened his eyes. They were completely gray. No pupils, no iris. Just solid gray, like marbles. And he smiled. This is Luke Foster, Hollow Station, August 15th, 0008 hours. I'm recording this because if we don't make it through the night, someone needs to know what happened here. What's still happening. Mikhail sat up at 2,303 hours. Shouldn't have been possible. Not with that broken leg, not with 106-degree fever. But he sat up smooth as silk, like the injury didn't exist. His gray eyes swept the room, calculating. "Mikhail," Yuki approached slowly, hands out. "Can you hear me?" He turned his head toward her. Too fast, too fluid. The movement was wrong, joint angles that human necks don't bend to. Then he lunged. Tomas caught him. Former linebacker. Reflexes saved Yuki's life. Tackled Mikhail back onto the bunk. Pinned him. Mikhail didn't fight back like a human would. He just kept reaching for Yuki with those jerking, spastic movements. His mouth was open, and that smell poured out. Sweet rot, copper, something else. Something organic and alien. "Restraints," I shouted. "Medical kit. There are soft restraints." Bridget found them, nylon cuffs designed for combative patients. We got his wrists secured to the bunk frame, then his ankles. He didn't resist exactly. He just kept trying to reach us, methodical, like we were objectives to be acquired. "Mikhail, if you can understand me, blink twice," Yuki said. No response, just those gray eyes, tracking her movements. Outside, the scratching intensified. Not just one animal now, multiple sources. South wall, west wall, the door. I went to the north window, risked a look. There were 7 of them, all mountain goats, all dead, all moving. They were arranged in a semicircle around the cabin, taking turns scratching at the walls, testing the structure. "They're coordinating," I said. "They're working together." "That's impossible," Bridget said. "Animals don't. Dead animals can't." "Look outside and tell me what's impossible." At 0034 hours, we heard something larger. Not scratching, impact. Something heavy hitting the west wall. The stone held, but the sound echoed through the cabin like a drum. I grabbed the Remington 870 from the gun rack, required equipment for ranger stations in grizzly country. Loaded it with slugs. If something broke through, I wanted stopping power. Yuki was checking Mikhail's vitals. His temperature's dropping. 103 now, but his heart rate's steady at 140. "Luke, this isn't any infection I've ever seen. The fever should be cooking his brain, but he's functioning. Operating." "Operating on what?" "I don't know, but look at the pattern." She pointed to his exposed chest. The gray veins had spread across his entire torso now, forming intricate geometric networks. This isn't random growth. It's organized, structured, like a circuit board, like it's rewiring his nervous system. Another impact on the west wall. Harder this time. Dust rained from the ceiling rafters. "What's out there?" Tomas asked. He'd grabbed a wood axe from the tool rack, held it like a baseball bat. "I don't know. Something bigger than goats." At 0156 hours, the radio crackled to life. Reese's voice, faint through heavy static. "Luke, respond. Trouble at Station 4. Similar." "Reese," I grabbed the handset. "Say again, you're breaking up." "Hollow glacier. Something released. Meltwater. Downstream contamination. Evacuation proto." Static consumed the signal. I tried for 10 minutes to reestablish contact. Nothing. "What did he say?" Bridget asked. "Contamination? Evacuation?" "The glacier," Yuki said quietly. She was standing at the window, looking at that dark mass upslope. Mikhail fell into that crevasse. He was exposed to the meltwater. Whatever's in that water, in the ice, it's what's doing this. "Parasites," I said. "Ancient parasites, frozen in the glacier. Climate change melts the ice, releases them into the runoff. Any animal drinking from the streams gets infected." "And Mikhail had open wounds," Yuki finished. "Compound fracture. The parasites entered his bloodstream directly." We all looked at Mikhail. He was staring at the ceiling now, mouth moving soundlessly. His fingers flexed against the restraints. Flex, relax, flex, relax. Rhythmic, like a heartbeat. At 0221 hours, something broke the window. Not the glass, we had storm shutters, heavy pine planks. But something cracked the wood. I heard it splinter, saw the plank bow inward 6 inches. Through the gap, I caught a glimpse of what hit it. An elk, full-grown bull, maybe 800 pounds. Its antlers had struck the shutter dead center. It backed up, charged again. The shutter cracked further. "They're getting smarter," Tomas said, "using the bigger animals as battering rams. Or the parasites getting smarter." Yuki was pale, learning from each host. Mikhail's human cognition, combined with animal strength. The elk hit again. The shutter's top hinge tore free from the stone. I made a decision. We seal the cabin. Now, every window, every vent, every gap. We turned this place into a bunker. We worked fast, used spare lumber from the supply shed, nailed boards over the damaged shutter, stuffed towels in the gap under the door, blocked the wood stove's flue. No smoke escaping meant no smoke entering. The temperature would drop without the stove, but hypothermia was better than infection. At 0334 hours, we heard the howling. Wolves, at least 3 of them, maybe more. Their calls echoed off the cirque walls, distorted by wind and distance. But these weren't normal wolf calls. They were synchronized. Identical pitch, identical rhythm, like a recording played through multiple speakers. "They're communicating," Yuki whispered. "The parasite is using them to coordinate." Mikhail turned his head toward the sound. His mouth opened, and that same howl came out. Perfect pitch, perfect rhythm. Not a human vocal cord sound. Something else using his throat. Bridget started crying. Tomas held her, but his eyes were locked on Mikhail with pure horror. At 0445 hours, the attack stopped. Complete silence. No scratching, no impacts, no howling. Just wind and rain. I risked a look through a gap in the shutters. Dawn was coming, gray light filtering through the storm clouds. The animals were gone. No bodies, no movement. Just empty rocks and rushing meltwater. "Where did they go?" Tomas asked. "Downstream," I said, "following the water, spreading." Yuki checked Mikhail. His temperature was 98.6, perfectly normal. His heart rate had dropped to 60 BPM, athletic resting rate. The gray patterns covered every inch of visible skin now. He looked like a marble statue, veins of darker gray running through pale gray flesh. "He's stable," Yuki said. "Physiologically, he's healthier than before the infection. It's not killing him. It's optimizing him." "For what?" "Transmission. Look at his hands." I looked. His fingernails had grown, not long but sharp, pointed, and under the nails I could see something moving. Tiny threads, hair-thin, writhing. "Parasites," Yuki confirmed, "concentrated under the nails. One scratch, one contact with an open wound, and they transfer. He's a vector now, a walking contamination source." At 0512 hours, we heard the helicopter. "This is Luke Foster, Hollow Station, August 15th, 0515 hours. Medical evac inbound, and we're about to make the worst mistake." The UH-60 came in low over the ridge, rotors thundering, searchlight sweeping the terrain. I ran to the door, grabbed the signal flare from the emergency kit. This was it: rescue, extraction, survival. Yuki grabbed my arm. "Luke, wait. Think about this." "Think about what?" "That's our ride out. That helicopter seats 6 people. We put Mikhail on board, we put the parasite on board. They fly him to Regional Medical Center in Billings. Population 180,000. How long before every person in that city is infected?" I stopped. The flare was in my hand, striker cap ready. The helicopter was circling, pilot looking for the landing zone marker. "He's one of us," Bridget said. "We can't just leave him here to die." "He's not dying," Yuki shot back. "That's the problem. He's not Mikhail anymore. He's a host, a vehicle for that thing. And if we evacuate him, we evacuate the infection." "So what's your solution?" Tomas demanded. "We shoot him? Leave him tied to that bunk." "We quarantine," Yuki said. "We radio the helicopter, tell them to maintain distance. We explain what's happening. Let them make the call." I looked at Mikhail. He was watching us with those gray eyes, expressionless. No fear, no hope, no humanity. Just patient waiting. The helicopter was descending toward the clearing 100 yards east of the cabin. I made the call. Grabbed the emergency radio. Separate unit from the main system, different frequency. Switched to helicopter emergency band. "Medical evac, this is ground station, abort landing." "Repeat, abort landing." The helicopter pulled up sharply, rotors screaming. Pilot's voice, confused. "Ground station, clarify. You have medical emergency, correct?" "Affirmative, but situation is contaminated. Potential biological hazard. Maintain distance and relay to command." Long pause. Then, "Ground station, we're not equipped for biohazard extraction. Relaying to Billings command for instructions. Stand by." The helicopter circled higher, moved to a safe distance. Waiting. At 0534 hours, Reese's voice came through on the main radio. "Luke, what the hell is going on? Pilot says you're refusing evac." I explained everything. The glacier, the meltwater, Mikhail's infection, the reanimated animals. I could hear how insane it sounded, but I kept talking. Yuki added medical details, the fever patterns, the gray veining, the synchronized behavior. When we finished, there was a long silence. Then Reese said, "Luke, I need you to listen very carefully. We've had 6 similar reports in the last 3 hours. Station 4, Station 9, 2 ranches in the valley, a campground at Lake Elaine. All downstream from Hollow Glacier. All reporting aggressive animal behavior, human infections, coordinated attacks." My stomach dropped. "How many infected?" 47 confirmed. Probably more we don't know about. The meltwaters contaminated the entire drainage system. Everything drinking from those streams is picking it up. What's command saying? They're mobilizing a CDC rapid response team out of Denver. ETA 6 hours. Until then, we're under quarantine protocol. No one enters the affected area, no one leaves. That includes you, Luke. For how long? Until CDC clears us. Could be days. Could be weeks. Bridget made a choking sound. Tomas put his head in his hands. Yuki just nodded, like she'd expected it. At 0612 hours, Mikhail spoke. Not the howling, not the inhuman sounds. Actual words, in his Ukrainian accent. Luke, please. We all turned. His gray eyes were focused on me, and for just a second, I saw something human in there. Fear. Awareness. Please, he said again. I'm still here. Inside. I can feel it, but I'm still here. Don't leave me like this. Mikhail, Yuki approached carefully. How much control do you have? Very little. Fading. The organism is learning my neural pathways. Soon it will know everything I know, language, behavior, how to seem human. You must not let it learn. You must not let it spread. What does it want? I asked. To propagate. It's been frozen for thousands of years. Now it's awake and it's hungry. Every host it takes, it learns from, gets smarter, better at infection. His face twisted, pain or maybe resistance. I felt it when I was in the crevasse. Ancient, patient. It's been waiting so long. How do we stop it? You can't. Not all of it. But you can slow it. Contain the source. His eyes locked on mine. Destroy the glacier. Cut off the meltwater. Strand the parasites in ice until winter refreezes everything. That's impossible. We'd need explosives. Tomas interrupted. Luke, you have avalanche charges for emergency snow removal. I've seen them in the equipment shed. He was right. 6 Type P avalanche charges, military surplus, 20 pounds of composition explosive each, designed to trigger controlled avalanches for winter trail clearing. Enough to destabilize the glacier's terminus, collapse it into the Cirque Basin. If we detonate those charges at the glacier's base, Tomas continued, we could bury the meltwater streams under tons of ice, freeze the parasites back into suspension, and trap ourselves here until CDC arrives, Yuki added. No water source means we're on ration supplies only. Better than letting that thing spread to Billings, Bridget said quietly. Mikhail's eyes rolled back. When they returned, they were solid gray again. The humanity was gone. His mouth opened, and that howl came out, the same synchronized call we'd heard from the wolves. From outside, answering howls. The infected were returning. At 0647 hours, I made the second decision. Reese, this is Luke. I'm going to collapse Hollow Glacier. I need authorization to use the avalanche charges. Luke, those charges are for emergency use only. This is an emergency. If we don't stop the meltwater, the infection spreads to every downstream water source. We're talking the entire Yellowstone River system, population exposure in the millions. Another long pause. Then, you're right, authorization granted. But Luke, those charges are remote detonation. Maximum safe distance is 800 yards. The cabin is only 600 yards from the glacier. I know. You'll be caught in the blast zone. Possible avalanche, possible structural failure. I know. Luke. We don't have another option. I'm proceeding. Luke out. I switched off the radio before he could argue. At 0702 hours, we began loading the charges. This is Luke Foster, Hollow Station, August 15th, final log entry. If you find this recording, understand that we knew the risks. We made this choice. The avalanche charges were in the equipment shed, small reinforced building 50 yards behind the cabin. Getting there meant going outside, exposing ourselves to the infected animals we knew were circling. I'll go, I said, It's my job. You'll need help carrying 6 charges, Tomas countered. I'm coming. We armed ourselves, me with the Remington, Tomas with the wood axe. I grabbed the detonator control box from the radio desk, made sure the batteries were charged. Digital readout showed 94% power, plenty for 6 simultaneous detonations. At 0708 hours, we opened the cabin door. Empty clearing, morning light filtering through breaking clouds. Storm was passing. The meltwater stream roared past, foamy brown with glacial silt, and floating in that water threads, millions of hair-thin parasites, catching the light like cobwebs. Don't touch the water, I told Tomas. Don't even let it splash on you. We moved fast, reached the equipment shed without incident. The charges were stored in a locked steel cabinet, protocol for explosive materials. I had the key on my Ranger keyring, got the cabinet open. 6 gray-green cylinders, each 2 feet long, 20 pounds. Composition B explosive with remote detonation caps. I trained on these but never used them in a real scenario. Now we were going to use all 6 at once. We heard the growling as we loaded the charges into the ATV cargo bed. Mountain lion. Big one, maybe 180 pounds. It emerged from the rocks north of the shed, moving with that jerky, unnatural gait. Gray patterns covered its fur in geometric whirls. Its eyes were solid gray marbles. Crouched, haunches bunching for a leap. I dropped the charge I was holding, brought the Remington up, fired. The slug hit center mass. Perfect shot, should have dropped it instantly. The animal staggered, but didn't fall. That same sweet rot smell erupted from the wound. I could see parasites boiling out of the injury, writhing threads trying to seal the damage. They don't die, Tomas shouted. Luke, they don't fucking die. I fired again. Headshot this time. The cougar's skull exploded, brain matter spraying. Collapsed, legs still twitching. But through the scope, I could see those parasites in the ruined head, still moving, still trying to animate the body. They're not reanimating corpses, I said. They're piloting them. The host is dead, but the parasite keeps the nervous system functioning. We loaded the last charge, jumped on the ATV, headed for the glacier. At 0734 hours, we reached the terminus. The hollow glacier's southern edge, a wall of dirty ice 40 feet high, calving slowly into the meltwater pool below. In the morning light, I could see the discoloration clearly, those gray-green veins running through ancient blue ice, pockets of concentrated parasite colonies, preserved for millennia, now melting. The pool was thick with them, the water roiled with thread movement, like a living thing. This was ground zero, the highest concentration of parasites in the drainage system. We positioned the charges at 6 points along the terminus wall. Technical placement. I'd been trained where to put them for maximum structural damage. 3 at the base, 3 mid-height, all angled to direct the blast inward. When they detonated, the entire terminus would collapse into the cirque basin, burying the contaminated pool under thousands of tons of ice. Tomas worked fast, fearless. Former combat engineer, he mentioned while we wired the detonators. 2 tours in Afghanistan, EOD specialist. This was just another day blowing things up. You didn't tell me you were military, I said. You didn't ask. Besides, this is way more fucked up than Kandahar. We finished placement at 0756 hours. Checked each charge twice. All connections secure. All receivers responding to the control box. We had 800 yards to clear before detonation. The ATV could cover that in 90 seconds. Then we heard the howling. Not just wolves now, everything. Cougars, elk, moose, goats, even birds. A coordinated chorus echoing off the cirque walls, coming from every direction. They were between us and the cabin. How many? Tomas asked. I counted shapes emerging from the rocks. 30, maybe more. Can we fight through? I looked at my Remington 6 shells left in the magazine, looked at his axe, looked at 30 infected animals forming a living blockade. No, I said, we can't. Then what? We run the other direction, up and over the ridge to the east. Steep, but there's a game trail. Leads down to the Cathedral Peak Service Road. 6 miles, but it's away from the drainage system, away from contaminated water. What about the women? I grabbed the radio handset. Yuki, this is Luke. We've got the charges placed, but we're cut off. Infected between us and you. We're going over the East Ridge to Cathedral Peak Road. You need to seal that cabin and wait for CDC. Yuki's voice crackled back. Luke, Mikhail's restraints are failing. The parasite is making him stronger. We can't hold him much longer. Then you need to make a choice. Keep him restrained or put him down. I'm sorry, but those are your options. Silence. Then Bridget's voice. We'll handle it. You two get to safety. Blow that glacier to hell. At 0804 hours, we started climbing. The East Ridge was brutal, 45-degree scree slope, loose rock, no cover. Behind us, the infected were converging on our position. They moved like a single organism now, coordinating perfectly. The fastest animals, wolves, cougars, took point. The heavy animals, elk, moose, formed a second wave. We climbed. Tomas set the pace using his military conditioning. I followed, lungs burning, legs screaming. The control box was in my pack, bouncing against my spine with every step. At 0819 hours, we reached the ridgeline, looked back. The infected had reached the glacier terminus. They weren't pursuing us anymore. They were gathering around the avalanche charges, investigating them with animal curiosity but parasite intelligence. A gray wolf was sniffing at charge number 3. An elk was rubbing against charge number 5. They know, Tomas said. Somehow they know what those charges mean. Can they disable them? Not without opposable thumbs, but they might trigger them accidentally. I pulled out the control box. The digital readout showed 6 green lights, all charges armed and ready. Safety cover was still on the detonation switch. Maximum safe distance was 800 yards. We were at maybe 900, just barely clear. We should wait, Tomas said. Get further away. If they trigger them accidentally, the blast pattern will be wrong. Won't collapse the terminus properly. We detonate now or risk failure. A mountain goat was headbutting charge number 2. Each impact shifted the charge's position slightly. I flipped up the safety cover. Tomas, cover your ears and get behind that rock outcrop. He moved. I counted to 3, pressed the detonator button. 6 charges detonated simultaneously at 0823 hours. The sound was beyond description, not just loud, world-ending. The blast wave hit us 3 seconds later, even at 900 yards. Threw me flat on my back, ears ringing, vision blurred. When I could see again, the hollow glacier was gone. Not gone, collapsed. The entire southern terminus had folded into the Cirque Basin like a house of cards. Thousands of tons of ice, crushing down, burying the contaminated meltwater pool under a glacier's worth of frozen mass. The blast had triggered a secondary avalanche from the upper slopes, even more ice pouring down, sealing everything. The meltwater stream had stopped flowing, just stopped, cut off at the source. And in the devastation below, nothing moved. The infected animals had been caught in the collapse, crushed, buried, frozen. Gray bodies visible in the ice, preserved like ancient specimens. Jesus Christ, Tomas whispered. We did it. We bought time, I corrected. That ice will melt again eventually, but winter's in 3 months. It'll refreeze before then. Lock the parasites back in suspension until CDC figures out how to deal with this permanently. We started down the East Ridge at 0841 hours. The Cathedral Peak Service Road was 6 miles through rough country. But we had daylight, we had water bottles, we had no infected animals pursuing us. At 0915 hours, my radio crackled. Reese's voice. Luke, did you just... What the hell was that explosion? Avalanche charges. Hollow Glacier terminus is collapsed. Meltwater stream is cut off. Luke, I'm looking at seismic readings. You triggered a magnitude 2.4 earthquake. The whole ranger station network felt it. Is the cabin still standing? Pause. I don't have visual. Helicopter is inbound to check. Luke, if those women were still inside. They knew the risk. We all did. At 1034 hours, we reached the Cathedral Peak Service Road. A park service truck was waiting. Reese had sent Calvin up with supplies and extraction. We loaded into the truck, started the long drive down to Valley headquarters. Calvin kept staring at us in the rearview mirror. You two look like you've seen a ghost. Worse, Tomas said. We've seen the future, and it's gray. At 1147 hours, we reached Beartooth Station Central. Reese was there, along with 2 CDC officers in full hazmat gear. They took our statements separately, examined us for signs of infection, drew blood samples, isolated us in separate quarantine rooms. I'm recording this from room 4, steel door locked, one-way observation glass. They've got me stripped down, every inch of skin examined for gray patterning. So far, nothing. Blood tests are still processing. Through the glass, I can see the main operations room. Computer monitors showing a map of the drainage system, the entire Yellowstone River network highlighted in red. Contamination zones. They've established quarantine perimeters at 12 locations. Helicopter footage shows infected animals throughout the system. Hundreds of them, maybe thousands. But the meltwater from Hollow Glacier has stopped. The main source is cut off. The parasites already in the system will die without fresh reinforcement from the glacier. That's the theory anyway. Reese just entered my quarantine room, full hazmat suit, speaking through a voice modulator. Luke, I need to tell you something. The helicopter reached Hollow Station at 0947 hours. I sat up, and the cabin's still standing. Structural damage from the blast, but intact. We found 3 women inside, alive and uninfected. Relief hit me like a physical force. Thank God. Mikhail, dead. Yuki said they had no choice. He broke the restraints, attacked Bridget. Tomas's wife had to use a fire axe. Multiple strikes to sever the spine. Even then, the body kept trying to move for several minutes after death. They burned the corpse in the wood stove. I thought about Mikhail, the real Mikhail, the guide who'd fallen into that crevasse and come out infected. Somewhere in that gray shell, he'd been aware enough to warn us, to tell us how to stop it. He saved us, I said. In the end, he saved us all. CDC wants you to know, initial blood tests are negative for parasite contamination. You and Tomas are clear. So are the women. But you're all staying in quarantine for 72 hours, just to be safe. What about the downstream areas? The ranches, the campgrounds? Reese's expression darkened behind the faceplate. 47 confirmed infected, like I said. CDC is working with the military to establish hard quarantine. Nobody in, nobody out. They're calling it a biohazard containment zone. For how long? Until winter. First hard freeze should kill any parasites outside of ice suspension. But Luke, they're talking about permanently destroying Hollow Glacier. Drilling thermal wells, melting it completely in a controlled manner, then sterilizing every drop of water. They can't risk another thaw releasing more parasites. I thought about the glacier, that ancient ice, preserved for 10,000 years, a remnant of the Pleistocene, holding secrets from before human civilization. And now we were going to destroy it to save ourselves. It's the right call, I said. I know, but it's still a hell of a thing. At 1,523 hours, they brought Yuki, Bridget, and Tomas to adjacent quarantine rooms. I could see them through connected observation windows. We could wave, mouth words to each other, but no physical contact. Not for 3 days. Yuki looked exhausted. Bridget was crying silently. Tomas just stared at the ceiling, processing everything we'd been through. At 1,604 hours, Reese returned with an update. Luke, CDC wants your professional assessment. They're asking if the parasite demonstrated intelligence or just coordinated instinct. I thought about the way the infected animals had moved, synchronized, purposeful, strategic. The way they'd gathered around the avalanche charges like they understood what the explosives meant. Intelligence, I said. Distributed intelligence. Each infected host is a neuron in a larger network. The parasite doesn't think in individuals, it thinks in collectives. Get enough hosts together, and it starts demonstrating problem-solving, strategy, learning. That's what CDC thinks too. They're calling it an emergent intelligence parasite. First documented case. How many cases are there worldwide? We don't know. But Luke, climate change is melting glaciers everywhere. Greenland, Antarctica, the Alps, the Andes. Every ancient ice formation potentially contains preserved microorganisms. This might not be the last time something like this happens. At 1847 hours, exactly 24 hours since I'd first received that distress call, I recorded this final log entry. My name is Luke Foster. I'm a backcountry ranger for the Beartooth Absaroka Wilderness. On August 14, 2024, a climbing party fell into a crevasse on Hollow Glacier and became patient zero for a parasitic infection that nearly spread to the entire Yellowstone River system. We stopped it, for now. But I keep thinking about what Mikhail said, that the parasite had been waiting, frozen for thousands of years, patient, dormant, and now it's awake. We collapsed one glacier, but there are thousands more, and they're all melting. The CDC officer who interviewed me said something that I can't get out of my head. Ranger Foster, humanity has been the apex predator on this planet for 10,000 years. That's exactly how long these parasites have been frozen. Maybe they were apex predators before we were. Maybe the Ice Age wasn't the end of their era, just an intermission. Through the observation window, I can see Tomas. He's awake, staring at his hands, flexing his fingers over and over, checking for gray patterns that aren't there. We're all doing it, obsessive examination, looking for signs of infection we know aren't coming. But we'll never stop looking, because we know what's out there now, locked in ancient ice, waiting for the thaw. The temperature today hit 68 degrees at 11,000 feet. Warmest August 14th on record. Next year will probably be warmer. And the glaciers will keep melting. This is Luke Foster, Beartooth Absaroka Wilderness Station 7. Final entry. If you're reading this, if you're hearing this, be careful with the old ice. Be careful what you let thaw. Some things were frozen for a reason. End recording. CDC report extract, August 18, 2024. Incident designation, Hollow Glacier Outbreak, HGO-001. Confirmed infected hosts, 47 human, estimated 200 plus animal. Fatalities, 8 human, including index case Mikhail Sokolov. Status, contained via source elimination and hard quarantine. Risk assessment, critical similar events likely as climate change accelerates glacier melt worldwide. Recommendation, establish permanent monitoring stations at all major glacier sites. Develop rapid response protocols for ancient pathogen release. Consider preemptive glacier sterilization in high-risk areas. Note: Ranger Luke Foster, Tomas Carlson, Dr. Yuki Tanaka, and Bridget Carlson cleared quarantine after 72 hours. No signs of infection. All 4 subjects demonstrate symptoms of acute stress disorder and have been referred for psychological evaluation. The Hollow Glacier site has been designated a permanent biohazard zone. Thermal sterilization of remaining ice scheduled for September 2024, pending environmental impact review. Secondary concern: 12 infected animal hosts escaped containment perimeter before quarantine establishment. Current whereabouts unknown. Surveillance ongoing. End report.